All right, everybody, we are starting up the podcast right about now.
I did another
Hello,
one.
hello.
Oh, I thought I did. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey, guys, what's happening?
Oh, what's up?
Not
I don't-
much. We're still
Oh, man.
scrambling to get all of our posts out and stuff. But I think we're good to go.
I think we're good to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Awesome. Let's just jump into it. Hello and welcome to Next to Nothing, the show where we talk about how to waste your time and not your money in gaming. I am your host, Danie K. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Renditions.
Hi, I'm Ren. I'm bad at games and stuff. What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Doing really, really good. And our special guest this week, Nermal225.
Hey, how's it going? What's up, everyone?
So, real quick, Nermal, go on ahead and tell the kind folks what you do, some of the cool stuff you do, and where they can find all that cool stuff.
Sure. So I am a variety streamer. I specialize in shooter games, survival games, and such of that nature. You can find me on Twitch, Nermal225, Twitter as well, Nermal Plays Games, or is it Game? I think it's just Game. You can also find me on YouTube if you want. I mean, I don't really use YouTube, but yeah, that's my plug.
Right on.
Awesome. And as always, if you guys are listening on the VOD, make sure if you're watching the VOD or listening on Spotify or something like that, go on ahead and go to the description of the episode and find a link to his Twitch channel. If you guys are live in the channel right now, I just give him a shout out and you can go on over there and pop him a follow.
I just had my chat, so I have my lights going off, so people are in my chat changing colors in my stream right now. So if you see the colors, they're literally in there trolling me right now.
Oh, man. I have the exact thing set up too, so I'm just hoping secretly that they don't find out that I do that too. I'm really hoping that as well. Oh, man.
I think my chat's telling me that they're here to watch.
It's like that scene. It's like the first season of Stranger Things.
Yes. Oh my god.
Will, is that you, honey? Before we get into the show, I wanted to do a quick plug for some awesome dudes. We made a promo. If anyone that follows me and was in the creative stream knows, I made a promo for the show and was starting to trade it around to some other podcasts. And there was a podcast that already has it on for us. They're awesome dudes. They've given us a lot of love. So I want to give a quick shout out to the guys over at Budget Arcade. Go check out Budget Arcade. They're three awesome dudes, and they're Scott, Jeff, and Elliot. And each week they take a free to play game, and discuss it in length. They talk about all the mechanics. They talk about the paywalls. They talk about the, how much fun they had with it, how much fun they didn't have with it, what they would like to see changed, future patches, and stuff like that. It's all stuff that they do over there at Budget Arcade. It's perfect for when you guys want an actual in-depth discussion. I know we kind of go over the general broad views. We don't go nearly as in-depth as them. So definitely go check it out. I'm going to go on ahead and post the Spotify link in the chat right now. You can find them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere podcasts are found. Seriously, go give them a follow, give them a couple listens, and tell them that we sent you guys. We really appreciate it. So that's the big plug that I had. Do we just want to get into the games that we played?
Sure,
Yeah,
I don't mind.
Sure.
By all means.
Absolutely.
Ren, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go?
You can go ahead and go first. I don't mind.
All right. So I didn't really play much this week. I was kind of bored laying in bed. I didn't want to go to bed, on Sunday night, really, when I went to go lay down. So I decided to scroll through and find something to play around with that wasn't Raid Shadow Legends, which I'm still playing. I'm still playing a lot of Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh my god.
But I found a game called Inside. At least I started playing the demo. I'm watching Nermal Nermal's
My
camera.
my camera is going ballistic. Everyone, I guess my stream is saying that they're here to support me.
That is just fucking hilarious.
It's the best distraction ever. It's like a little toy, you let them play with it and they go
Yeah.
nuts. So
Oh man.
So Inside is from the devs that created Limbo. It's a 2D puzzle platformer. It's got a really gorgeous, melancholic aesthetic, kind of a mid-century, post-World War II kind of aesthetic to it. Let's see. So a lot of it, it seems like you're playing a child and you're hiding from like a group of people and some other uh devious actors, trying to run and not get caught or murdered. Actually, I mean, it's very brutal. You get straight up
Yeah.
murdered if you
yeah.
get caught. There's no combat, at least in the demo that I played. I'm assuming there's no combat in the game at all. Like I said, I played on mobile, which for those who don't know, I rock an iPhone 10. um it I'm trying to find a way to describe playing this game on mobile. I think finicky is the best way to
Mhm.
describe it.
Finicky. Why is it finicky?
So a part of it, the control scheme is mostly that you like touch the screen and like drag on the screen to control your movements. So part of it is like you don't really have like the fine dexterous control. Like if you just hold it, like your character is going to run until it meets some sort of block, right? You just kind of slide and hold, and then as soon as you hit some sort of obstacle, your character just kind of stops or keeps running, whatever. If you like want to jump, you kind of like pop like your finger up, and that part of it was like the difficult, like I need to jump and like my finger like would just kind of like slide all the way up,
Yeah.
and then like you still have to run after you jump, or you still have to
Right.
move, especially if it's like something is chasing you.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I found like doing that was really difficult.
Okay.
There's also like part of it where like if you have to interact with something, you almost have to click it and then like drag.
Mhm.
So you you like try to like almost like click into it and then um interact with something, and it was just very it was very odd
Okay.
feeling to try to control the character and interact with the environment.
Mhm.
um this is definitely a game that, and I looked it up after I played it. It is available on iOS, Android. It's on the Nintendo Switch. It's on PC. It's on PS4 and Xbox One. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Um, this game needs a controller of some sort. If
Yeah.
you're someone who does like mobile gaming and you have a little, like little Bluetooth controller or something else that you can use, I definitely recommend doing it. I find um I would definitely say any controller would work. Keyboard and mouse would also be just fine as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, because yeah, I mean, like readjusting it like the wrong time. There's like one section very early on. Actually, I think it's a section that we're watching right now.
Yeah.
That the where you kind of needed like some finer control.
Right.
That like I and it wasn't very hard. Like after the fourth try, I got it, but there was like a struggle there that was
Yeah.
enough that made me really struggle to get with the touch controls. um let's see, I had a note here. um yeah, so like I said, readjusting like your finger and trying to do that all at once could prove fatal in the game.
Mhm.
The puzzles in the demo seem pretty easy. I'm not really a puzzle person, but I kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
um and when I read the plot, I felt like the demo kind of got me through quite a bit of the game. Like at
Mhm.
least like it almost felt like a quarter of the game. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
um it's definitely uh the puzzles were kind of easy enough. So I'd say anyone that's a casual puzzle player will probably enjoy this game.
Mhm.
I would say I'm a below casual puzzle player. They're not really my thing, and I got through it fine.
Yeah.
At least the demo. So the
Yeah.
overall, the full experience, I'm not sure. I'm sure it probably gets more difficult. But um, yeah, like kind of like overall, the experience was good. Like I don't really have a lot of complaints other than just like the touch controls felt finicky. I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more if I had played the demo on PC or put it on like a Switch or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, I don't really think I'm gonna make the purchase myself. Let me double check and see what it costs. I
Yeah,
saw
is the
someone
price
say,
different between like the mobile apps versus like a desktop version, for example?
yeah, let me double check and see what the full price of Inside is. If I now, so the way it does it is it's an in-app purchase, so you
Okay.
can
Right.
install it free, and then so it doesn't actually have a listing, a paid listing on
Right.
iOS
Okay.
store.
I think I saw it
Uh,
for about $7. I think I saw $6.99 somewhere when I was
yeah,
doing
let
a
me
little bit
hit
of
the
research on it.
buy game option. Yeah, $7.
Okay.
So it's $6, $6.99.
Mhm.
Um, so and it looks like it's been free. Actually, Budget Arcade. Scott is in the chat and he's saying it was free on Xbox last month.
Mhm.
Game on Gold. So yeah, on mobile, I do not really recommend unless you have already played the game and really like it, and you just kind of want to have it there on mobile.
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna experience it, get it on Xbox One or PS4.
Yeah.
Um, you know some other platforms where you have a little bit more control,
Mhm.
unless you have like some sort of Bluetooth controller that you can
Yeah.
use.
The game
uh,
does definitely look like it's what was the original game of this? The
Uh,
developers?
yeah, the
Limbo.
original developers
Limbo.
made Limbo, yeah, and
I loved that game. That game was a lot of fun when I was playing it. And I remember this is back in 2000, I think it was 12. I played
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
on my MacBook and I played the crap out of it and I just loved it. So it does look interesting. It does pique my interest to actually consider buying it. I probably won't buy it for mobile, but probably
Yeah.
for the PC or something like that.
Yeah. And I feel like this is one area where they really excel at, and I'm really glad that they kind of stick to their niche on it, where it's very much
Yeah.
an
Mhm.
atmospheric platformer. Like, that's basically all they do. As a matter of fact, when I was checking out the price for this, I also found out Limbo as well was on mobile, which I was
Oh,
Mhm.
kind of surprised about, because I don't really. One, I probably would really not recommend Limbo on mobile. If you would
yeah.
recommend this, I really would not recommend Limbo because that's much more platformer focused. I've seen
Yeah.
a while back I saw the entire like playthrough of this game a while ago when it was super popular. Um it's really good in terms of like just an atmospheric title. Um but that being said, this one also has significantly less platformer elements than something like Limbo does. And I don't know. I really really appreciate the like amount of detail that they put into their art style. I'm always
Oh yeah.
really really impressed by that in particular,
Oh yeah.
because it's not necessarily like they're trying to fit into anything in particular. Like for example, Limbo, for those who don't know, is basically just a black and white game. Like it's a very
Yeah.
like very dark game, and like through like that black and white like aesthetic that they use, they also use very very dark like just underlying tones in the first place. You'll find people like hanging just from like ropes and nooses. You'll find like demon spiders just murdering everything. People will die to like bear traps. And
Yep.
like overall it's a really cool experience. It's super dope. But yeah, this one's a little bit more like, I would say the other one's much more horror. This one's very much like almost to the like the degree of like it's a conspiracy, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what exactly
Yeah.
is happening? And I don't know.
Mhm.
I really appreciate that. I would definitely like if you're playing a platformer on mobile, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I
Right.
would say,
I
to
was
be
gonna say that
honest.
too.
Yeah. But honestly, I could see this being fantastic on any other platform whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um
Mhm.
and I can't really expect anybody to have a Bluetooth controller because like
Yeah.
I don't know. Just for me, I've never been the kind of person that's really particularly cared about mobile games. That's why I was so surprised when you said that you like played this on mobile, because I've
Yeah.
known this from like the PC version, the Xbox
Oh yeah.
version. So when
Mhm.
you're just like, "Oh yeah, I played this game on Android. I played the demo." I was like, "What? Wait, hold on. What's going on there? I don't know. Definitely,
Yeah.
it's definitely a really unique experience, though. It's
Mhm.
something like if you're the kind of person that is willing to watch a playthrough of it, you could probably get away with just that. But that being said, you're probably missing out on just like the sheer gameplay experience of it as well.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's basically my stance on this one personally. Really phenomenal art style. The gameplay is simple, but not necessarily a bad thing. Like
Yeah.
simple isn't bad, really. But yeah, definitely recommend checking it out at least, like bare minimum.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I definitely will be.
And I just out of like sheer curiosity, I took a quick moment to look at mobile controllers, like Bluetooth controllers.
Mhm.
The Amazon's Choice, um, is $10, and it's one that like you sit your phone into,
Okay.
and it's just like it's like you set your phone into like the device, and then like you hold it. So you don't actually have any buttons. It just gives you grips on the bottom of your phone
Oh.
Oh
for
no.
$10. Basically, um, yeah, some of them I'm looking at like actually have like buttons and stuff, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, it does not look like any of these would be a worthwhile purchase
Yeah.
unless you're like really, really into.
Yeah, if you're that avid mobile like gamer, like you're
Yeah,
that hardcore mobile gamer,
Yeah.
there's
Well,
one.
then maybe. But
There's
maybe.
one. There's uh there's one that I'm seeing here that has a cooling fan
Oh
on it
geez.
for
There's
$11.
there's one that I'm seeing that looks like an Xbox controllers. Now I'm looking at ones that are like $30, $40, but there's one that
Mhm.
looks like an Xbox like Pro controller or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, but kind of picking back off of like mobile gaming, who knows? Maybe the next 10, 20 years, that could be you know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
the go-to. We're trying to have phones that, are do everything. So we could be getting rid of our desktop sometime soon. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting to see what might happen with Apple Arcade and Google Stadia,
Yes.
Mhm.
for what can happen with mobile gaming.
Yeah.
Um, if because the Stadia controller will work with your Android and iOS devices. I think basically anything with Chrome, Stadia is going to be available on. And so it's interesting just because that the controller doesn't really. I guess it can operate in two different ways. But the intended purpose is that the controller itself connects um, to the Stadia server, and you operate it there,
Mhm.
so that the input latency is supposed to be less instead of it going from the controller to the device to the server to back again. It's just going from the controller to the server,
Yeah.
and you're seeing the results of that on the device.
Yep.
Um,
Right.
so
I think
that's gonna be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, so I think Nvidia is doing something similar to that as well,
Mhm.
where basically you can be playing on your PC, and then if you have to go, you can continue saying like a play, you know, PUBG, but the desktop version on your phone while you're going out and using like a Bluetooth controller or something of that sort.
Yeah.
So that could be the future. That's probably going to be the
Mhm.
future.
And
Yeah.
we've had a guest talk about that. That was back in November of last year, so almost a year ago.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Mhm.
it was OG Future. I'm gonna actually share that link if anyone is curious. Um, that was he talked about playing with that NVIDIA system. Um, but kind of dragging us back to the topic. The inside, probably not great for mobile unless,
Mhm.
like I said, unless you've already played it and you just want to have it on mobile. You want it on the iPad or something like that. So if you're going on a trip or something like that. Otherwise, I think if you're a fan of puzzle platformers, pick it up on any of your consoles. Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, excuse me, PS4, and then pick it up on PC as
Yeah.
well. Excuse
And
me.
and
Mm,
honestly, it might not even be that bad on iPad or something like that where you
yeah.
have just such a
Yeah.
large amount of screen space where you can
Mhm.
really like have control versus
Yeah.
something like an actual phone. So if you're
Yeah.
playing on something like an iPad, maybe give it more of a consideration, at least try the demo out. But honestly, when it comes to something along the lines of like a tiny phone screen, I really wouldn't recommend it personally. Like, you'd be missing out on a lot of detail anyway. Like, that's the way I see it, is there's a lot of like little tiny details, and then just putting it like on such a smaller device, you're probably going to miss out on things that you were like really going to appreciate when you're playing it. So
I agree.
yeah, that's basically my stance on it. If you have an iPad, maybe. If you're using a phone, no. This is just
I
a
agree.
no. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's really all the thoughts I have on Inside. It was fun, you know. It got me through it got me through my like little lull of boredom that I didn't want to sleep through yet. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's Inside. Ren.
Yeah, so I've been
Yes.
playing starting like super recently. I've only played like I want to say about 4 hours of it, but I've actually been trying out Kingdom Come Deliverance. And for those who don't know what it is, it's basically an open world RPG. That's like the initial, like that's the basis of what it is. But I would say the very first thing, more than anything I'd say about it, is probably the sheer amount of depth that they put into everything. Is it's pretty impressive. You start out playing the game. Let me pull it up here real quick. But you start out playing the game, and you're basically just a peasant. You're a peasant that works for your father, and your father's a swordsmith, and you're basically at the start. You're just trying to gather supplies to help your dad. And I can't really sum it up more than you you actually feel how horrible you are as a person. Like, in terms of sheer like combat prowess, you have none. You have absolutely zero. One of the first things that it tries to get you to do immediately is since your father's a swordsmith, he's lending out some tools to like the local town drunkard. I don't know why. Don't get me wrong, stupid idea. But he lends it out to the local town drunkard, and you're supposed to go retrieve like either the tools or the money. You're supposed to get one or the other. And you go over to go like talk to him and just be like, "Hey, I need my money back." And then it turns into like a fight. And the first thing I noticed immediately before the fight even starts is the sheer amount of tutorial dialogue that it just threw at my face. Was like, left click is for like a special jab, which is like really fast, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. Then right is for like an uppercut, like really knock him off his feet. And then you can kick him and you can deflect and you can like dodge and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting here like, I can left click at him. Like, I know that much. I could do that pretty well. And I lost. I completely lost the fight to the town drunkard, which was really disappointing, to be honest with you, because like he can barely stand, he can barely walk around. You're just like, this is gonna be nothing, cakewalk. And then he just demolishes you outright. Like, you're knocked out, passed on the ground, and you actually have to go back to your mom, and you just basically complain to your mother, like, he beat me up. Can you fix me? And she's like, okay, all right, whatever. And like, this is the standard thing that just sort of happens. And like, that really set the tone for what I've played so far. Is just like, you start out feeling insignificant at best. Like, you feel very weak. And honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing to have. It makes a lot of things more like much more impactful as a situation versus saying something like Skyrim, right? Where like, even in an unarmed fight, when you go into a bar to do a 1v1 brawl against somebody, you can quite literally just spam the attack button and they won't fight back. Like, that's just it. You win. That's basically how it goes. This one, like, you have to worry about this man, like, trying to deflect your moves, pulling you in for, like, a grapple and just chucking you to the ground. And you're just like, what is going on? I don't know what's happening. So, I don't know. That's the immediate first thing that I'd have to say is, like, the sheer amount of depth to everything. I've gotten, like I said, about 3 hours in, not super far. Apparently, I'm not even through the intro stage. Like, I'm not actually done with the base intro of the game. Apparently the intro where it actually starts up the opening credits is about 4 hours in. So I'm sitting over here like, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing okay. I almost got arrested by a guard because I didn't have a torch out at night, because that's illegal. Like, you can't just walk around at night without a torch because people are going to think you're a thief. and or a mugger trying to like start ish. And so I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Please don't arrest me. Spare me. And like, because I'm still weak. One of the very first things that happens, and it's not really too much of a spoiler, but it's basically the entire presentation of how the game starts, is after after you help your father, your village out of nowhere gets raided. There's no warning, there's no anything. You just see on the horizon there's fires, and then you just see a giant army. Like an army that doesn't make any sort of sense for raiding a village of this size. Like it is you're maybe a village of maybe like 30 people. This is an army of about 200 that are just here to annihilate you. And also apparently this game, while I don't really know too much about the history of it, is actually based on real history of I believe it's Croatia. I believe, I could be totally wrong on that one, but it's based on some actual realistic form of history. So essentially your village gets raided and like almost everybody dies. Unfortunately, your parents get killed. I know, little bit of a spoiler, but honestly, not really. It happens really, really shortly. But like the sheer impact that it has on the character is very impressive. And I guess that's another thing I should kind of like out of nowhere tangent onto, is like the voice acting is so good. Like it is honestly phenomenal. I was really impressed. It sounds much more like a really, really solid AAA title more than anything. So like I gave it full props on that. The facial animations at times aren't super amazing, but I think that's really just highlighted based on how good the voice acting is. I think that's honestly the issue right there, which isn't even really so much of an issue if you think about it. But everybody carries their voice very well. I think I've only ran into maybe one person that's kind of a little iffy, but not really. But you can feel the sheer amount of impact in everybody's tones, and it kind of just helps build them up as a character. So when this sort of situation happens where the entire village, where like you haven't even spent that much long in it, but you're already feeling connections to characters, and then it's just thrown away, and you're a peasant, you can't fight back. Like there's hordes of enemies coming after you while you're trying to get to safety. And this is pretty instantaneous. Like this is pretty soon in the game. I died about 3 times, like at the start, just trying to run away because I can't run away good enough. But yeah, so it basically puts you on this like stance of you're very weak. You should not. This is not like your standard RPG where you're the hero. That's not at all what it's about. It's about you building up to something bigger. And like I really found that to be something really impressive. And that's not something a lot of games at all do. Because a lot of characters, like a lot of games, just want to make you feel strong. Because power fantasies are relatively easy. Like in the grand scheme of things, Skyrim just spamming fireballs feels great, but like you're just spamming fireballs. There's not a whole lot to it in the grand scheme of things. But like just feeling confident about like your gameplay in this is so much more like impressive than feeling confident in your gameplay in something like a Skyrim, or even to a degree The Witcher. Witcher, I would say, has a lot more like, it's a lot more in depth in terms of its combat versus something like Skyrim, but this takes it to a whole nother level. Since this is based on like historical means, there's no real magic or anything like that. It's not fantasy. But yeah, I don't know. I found it to be a blast. I found it to be super cool, super fun, and really like enthralling. It has immersion nailed to a T on most things. I'll get to like the issues in a second. But yeah, basically the 3 hours flew on by, and it felt much more like I was almost playing a movie. Like it felt like I was actively playing a movie without it really guiding me like on a purely linear stance so far. And the game is still relatively linear at this point, but not to like the insane degree of something like Inside, where obviously it's a platformer, it's meant to be linear. Like that's the point. But yeah, I don't know. That was the first thing that I really like grabbed onto. It keeps teaching me newer and newer mechanics, like almost to the point where I'm almost not ready for it. So at the start, you're trying to learn unarmed combat. You're trying to learn sword combat. You're trying to learn haggling. You're trying to learn like talking to people in a way where they don't hate you, and like all of these sorts of things. at a point, I'm supposed to learn how to actually read. Your character doesn't know how to read at the start of the game, and you have to actively learn it. And that's in itself is like, what is happening? Like, what is going on here?
That is an interesting concept. That is an
yeah.
absolutely interesting concept.
Exactly. There's a lot of things that like no other game would really throw at you because they're afraid of like you as the player either not understanding or giving up too easily. And so I really give it like credit on that front where it's like it's not afraid to make you look like an idiot. As a matter of fact, it's really trying to initially to just really focus that. So I don't know. That's been the case. 3 hours, I still feel like a moron. I ate like a bunch of food because my brain was just like, I need to heal. I need to eat food. I ate so much food, I overate. I have a little piggy icon at the bottom of my screen, and like half the time when I'm walking down the street, I'm like almost passing out from just like sheer over like eating. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm just such an idiot. Okay, whatever. We're learning. This is fine. That being said, as like a streamer in particular, this isn't something I would ever stream immediately. There's so much that it throws at you at the start that like if you miss something, you're going to notice. Like you're going to notice you missed something, and then everything else from there on out is going to feel worse. And as a matter of fact, in this little scene that you can see right now, this is meant to like, kind of like signify how amazing your character is. Where like one of the generals is really like he just chops a fine line into the stick, and then you're like, I can barely hit it. I can barely even lift the sword in its own right. So I don't know. I found it to be really phenomenal in that regard. I like when a game doesn't just handhold me to like feeling like a god, rather than just being like, you made a mistake, you're going to learn from it. And the nice thing too is about like, I know I'm going on for a bit, but the fail states aren't necessarily fail states. When I lost the fight with the town drunkard, I couldn't go reset it. I couldn't go reset it and then try it again. Rather, I had to figure out another method to get the items. And then there were a couple of methods. I could either like go into his house, try to steal it with a lockpick from my friend that I borrowed, or I could go to my group of friends and like go basically throw crap at this guy's house because he's talking ish about the king. And like and my entire like group is like, we can't have that. So you're throwing poop at this guy's house and you have to run away from the guards. And basically, in exchange for that, you're all like, hey, help me go beat up this guy so I can get my stuff back. And it's like, okay, great, awesome. And the sheer amount of like a tiny village, there's a lot of little things going on, which was all in general really impressive. Half the time I had to go wash my face in a trough because I was covered in blood, and people wouldn't talk to me. Like, people would just be like, you're gross, go take a bath. And it's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'll be back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. In general, I really, really liked it. I appreciate the sheer amount of depth, and just in general, the sheer amount of like not holding your hand is really important to me. I don't like that in every game ever. I don't want to be like, I'm the god of every story of all time, because power fantasies get old after a while. Realistically speaking, like, I can feel like a legend in like Witcher, and granted, you kind of earn it. But like in something like an Elder Scrolls game, it just sort of like it loses its meaning after a certain point. Even to the degree when like when you restart a character, you still feel really strong in comparison to anybody else. And I feel like that's a very big thing to note. So I don't know. I like the fact that you're learning yourself rather than like your character's just learning. And like, oh, my character's now a god, the end. It's more like, no, I actually know how to fight proficiently. I can effectively fight somebody. I still haven't even learned how to beat somebody up. I'm still at the stage where I'm getting like my ass kicked a good 70% of the time. But yeah, that's the fun part of it. I don't know. That's basically my stance on it. I got it out of a Humble Monthly for like $12. I want to say last month. Super worth it. It was something I was really looking into in the first place, but at the same time I was also kind of hesitant on it because there's a lot of bugs. That's where I'm starting to get into it. The thing is, I haven't noticed gameplay bugs, but I have noticed a hilarious amount of like cinematic bugs, to the degree where after you run away from like this village getting burnt to the ground, you're basically greeted by like the I want to say the queen. It's not really a queen, but basically like the lady of the next village. You're greeted by her in your room, and my character glitched out. He's supposed to be wounded on a bed and like sitting upright. He's like sitting right next to her in the middle of the air, like talking right in her face. And I just was like, what is going on? It's meant to be like this really somber note, but I couldn't stop laughing about like how obscenely close they were. And he was just all like, everybody is dead. And just like right in her face. And she's like, I'm sorry. Uh could you move, please? I don't know. I there was situations like that. But realistically, I haven't found anything gameplay breaking. There hasn't been any moments where I'm like, I think it's busted. I can't move. I can't do anything like that. I've seen videos of like certain characters just supermaning into the sky. But to my knowledge, those are all from like back when it was starting to get released and not like soon like after that. And I believe this is one of the first games that they've ever made. So props to them for making such like a really in-depth game as one of their first titles. And I get it. Like I understand why there'd be so many bugs if this is your first title to make. Like making an open world RPG isn't easy. Let alone making an open world RPG with the much like as much depth as this one has cannot be like that simple. There's no way. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be wary of bugs, but I wouldn't let them deter you. That's basically my stance on it so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Well, I guess my first thing, real quick, is you mentioned that it takes place in a historical like space.
Yes.
Let's cue the History Channel music. Kingdom Come Dilverance takes place in the early 15th century in the Kingdom of Bohemia, part of the lands of the Bohemian Crown and the Holy Roman Empire in what is now the Czech Republic. The accessible area of the game is located in the region between Sassau and Rate. The other real-world settlements in the town include the game include Sabrina, Scalise, Sazva, Ledeko, Sazava Monastery, Talmbert Castle, Sambesi, Uzik, and Nove Dvur. I don't speak any German, Czech, or any of the Balkan languages. So hopefully my pronunciations were even in the neighborhood. That was just something I wanted to include there. Nermal, what's your experience with this game? Any?
I don't have much. Like I said, I mean what I said before the stream is that I've watched people play it, and I get the sense that a lot of people were choosing between getting this game or what is it called, Mordau. And everyone that I've talked to has gotten Kingdom Come, whereas I went the route of Mordau because I like kind of a stab 'em, no storyline. I just want to chop heads off kind of ordeal. But from what I've seen, a lot of people have really liked the game and have thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think it would be fun to do a playthrough of. Absolutely. I don't have much more than it looks like another version of Mordau, but I guess more in depth with the story.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. You mentioned Mordhau, the more in-depth combat, the parrying and anything. One thing, I mean, anyone who's been I've been involved in combat sports a little bit. In college, I took a fencing class. I wrestled in high school, and so understanding like that there's more to combat than just swinging.
Yeah.
A sharp metal thing and fine tuning that, it seems interesting. Also, the idea of learning violence, where I don't know if you guys have ever done any boxing or wrestling or any sort of martial arts or whatever, but one thing that when you kind of start doing some of the classes, and if you're like wrestling and you're learning how to like put people in a hold or to like throw someone over your hip or something like that, there's a lot to violence that you don't understand when you're put in those situations. And like, oh, like, okay, like if I throw a punch, even if I'm not that physically strong, human bodies can be fragile sometimes.
Yep.
And and if you're clumsy, you can do way more than what you think you can actually do if you're a clumsy fighter. And the other part of it being, oh yeah, I'm a clumsy fighter, I can't do shit. You know, there's like a
Yeah.
weird balance, and I think that there's kind of, it's interesting for them to show that not everyone is a natural born fighter. Um, that you have to work at, at your martial skills, at your martial arts.
Yeah.
That was always something intriguing to me when I heard people talk about the game. I'm like, oh, it's interesting for a game to actually show the nuance that combat and violence actually takes.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that seems like a really interesting mechanic in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And only recently I found out that there's a little indicator basically when you're in something like a sword fight. And you'll
Mhm.
see like a little highlighted portion. That's the actually area that you're attacking from. Like that's the direction. And
Mhm.
in any game ever, I have never seen like an attention to detail of like this is the direction that you're attacking. You might want to change that if he's holding a stance to block that sort of move. Like
Yeah.
that's almost never been the case. I can't think of any game where I've realistically just been like, oh, he's gonna block from this specific angle, but if I swing my sword around, then just get him from the side, then I'm good. I've never seen that happen, and I've only recently found that out, and I'm just sitting here like, I wish that I did that against that first fight. I so wish I did. Otherwise, it would not have been nearly as much nightmare fuel. But but yeah, I don't know. Just the sheer fact of like, it's nice to see that a game can make you feel like an idiot, but in a good way. Like not in a way where it's just purely demeaning, but like, oh, you don't know what you're doing yet. You're gonna want to figure that one out fast, or you're gonna be on the struggle.
It's like going to a good gym.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh man, but yeah, that's basically my stance on it. I actually don't know the price of it on retail. I only paid like $12 for it as a whole. But
It's
honestly,
$30.
Okay. I don't know if I would pay that immediately. I would say wait for a sale. I think it does go on sale relatively often, especially if it's something that goes on Humble Monthly. Usually things that go on Humble Monthly are like on a once a month like sale for about 20% off or so. If you could get it for any amount of sale whatsoever, I'd heavily recommend it. If you're willing to spend $30, I could definitely recommend it for sure. But honestly, I'm not that far into it to the point where I could be like, this is easily worth $30 of experience. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Real quick, just because it is a PC game, the minimum required specifications, according to the Steam page, 64-bit Windows, 7, 8, or 10. Recommended processor, Intel CPU i5, 250. I'm sorry, 2500 K 3.3 gigahertz, or an AMD Phenom 2 X4 940. Recommended 8 gigs of RAM, or I'm sorry, minimum requirement of 8 gigs of RAM. Graphics cards, GPU, let's see, GeForce GTX 660, AMD Radeon HD 7870, 40 gigs available space.
Yeah.
Is the minimum requirements according to Steam.
I'll say two things about that. The space is pretty big. I think it was actually like 47 when I downloaded it. But the optimization can be a hindrance to people. I didn't even honestly consider it because I actually run like a pretty beefy rig. But now thinking back on it, I tried to run it because normally I can run any like game on very high or ultra high or whatever the max setting is. I tried that and immediately regretted my choices. I put it down to like a normal, and I normally, for a lot of PC games nowadays, I actually run a reshade. It's basically an injector, so that way I can make a game look a little bit prettier without really affecting the performance too much. And it's just, it's basically like a third-party software. I ran that instead. It looks really good, regardless. I don't really have an issue with it. But yeah, I would definitely say, if you're gonna go play this, I wouldn't recommend trying to run it on a very high setting, unless if you really think you can do it. I'm running a 1070, I'm running an 8700, and like, it was having a struggle here and there. And I was just like in the village, and I was like, I'm just gonna set it to like a high or a normal and just leave it at that. Like it's not worth the pressure on that one. But yeah, I would definitely, if you don't have like the best rig, probably wouldn't recommend it. The issues, I believe there was a bunch of issues on PlayStation. It was either PlayStation or Xbox. It was one of the consoles. The other one had it relatively fine. Oh, it was Xbox One. It was the Xbox One that I had issues with. So I might steer away from it there, but to my understanding, they fixed most of the issues. So I'm honestly not totally certain on that boat. But if you're playing on PC and you have a decent rig, I'd heavily recommend it.
Okay.
That's basically my stance on it.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else on Kingdom Come Deliverance?
That pretty much nails it. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's good.
Cool.
It's solidly
Yeah.
good.
Nermal, you suggested a topic that we're kind of a couple weeks behind on it.
Sure.
But I think it's worth talking about. It's worth getting into this topic a little bit here. So why don't you introduce us to this idea?
Sure. I'm assuming it's the mixer, the switching over to mixer.
Yeah,
Okay,
Ninja leaving
so-
Twitch as well as the Mixer stuff.
Yeah. So Ninja left Mixer for a lot of money. And a lot of people are seeming to quote unquote jump ship and switch over to Mixer because Ninja is doing it. So I guess what are your thoughts on that? What do you guys think? What do you know about Mixer? I guess I've asked a lot of questions and need to be broken down, but
Honestly, my stance when it usually comes to switching platforms as a streamer, I normally think of it as a very short-sighted approach. In the case of Ninja, where like it just makes sense. Like you're getting a huge payout on it. And honestly, what I'm expecting his contract to be is something like a year, maybe 2 years, and then he's probably going to retire. That's my assumption. That'd be my guess because that just makes sense. I know, like it's Microsoft owned. You know they're gonna pay a ton of money for that. It's not so much just like, oh, I wasn't feeling it on Twitch anymore because that just no, that doesn't really work out.
No.
But when moving as a smaller streamer, especially, I feel like it's a much more short-sighted approach of like just like, oh, Ninja's moving, I need to move too. I think it's much more important to weigh out like the benefits and downsides of Mixer. As somebody that streams only on Twitch, I still know that there's a lot of benefits that Mixer has, like in terms of options. Their live streaming delays significantly lower than any other platform, almost instantaneously to a degree of like about 1 to 2 seconds of a latency time, which is nothing. That's absolutely nothing. Versus like Twitch and its ultra low latency, excuse me, upwards about 5 to 10 seconds, and then without it, it's about 30. YouTube as well has an ultra low latency to my understanding, but I think it's about the same stance. It's about 5 seconds. But like that's the one huge selling point of Mixer is like the latency is phenomenal. The latency is so good in comparison to every other platform. The monetization options, I feel like they're a little bit like confusing to most people, especially when you're considering something like Sparks, where it's a free currency for viewers, but you have to hit milestones in order to get paid. Like that's the core thing. And like with something like Twitch, you don't have to hit a milestone. Realistically, the milestone you have to hit is $100 on some month, and then you get paid out for all of the money that you've earned, like during that period of time, and then you're good. But like, I don't know. I feel like the Mixer monetization is really funky to so many people that don't understand it, and
it is, and I do have some of the requirements here. So from what I understand, even if you get Sparks, I don't think you get paid out until you are partnered. So unlike Twitch, Mixer does not have an affiliate program. So some of the requirements to be a Mixer partner is that you have to have an account that's 2 months or older. And this is where I'm getting a mixed noises or mixed information on. You need at least 2,000 followers, 12 streamers per month, or 12 streams per month is like 12 plus. You have to do plus. Sorry, my notes are a little confusing. Streamers, you have to stream 12 plus each month. Ugh. Anyway, moving on. has to be more than 25. You have to stream more than 25 hours per month. So compared to Twitch, where a lot of the same requirements are the same, but the difference is that you need a average of 75 viewers versus Mixer, you need 2,000 viewers or 2,000 followers.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the main thing there is like the ability to monetize. I feel like that's the big thing. Is like at partner status on Mixer, that's the only option where you really get to monetize your stuff. Affiliateship, while I do feel like the affiliateship program is a little iffy, I feel like it's not the best for everybody. I feel like honestly, half the time it's kind of just a false hope where
Yeah.
like 3 viewership isn't a lot. Like that's
Yeah.
you, a bot that you have in the channel, and then maybe your mom. Like
Yeah.
that in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things. I see that happen a lot, and I feel like a lot of people really like kind of oversell affiliate ship. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it is monetization. Like if it
Yeah.
is for an actual reasonable cause, I feel like that's great. Like for
Mm.
sure. I don't really have an issue with that. Um I also, because I do know a couple of partnered streamers from Mixer, Jim Watts is one of them. I believe that he got his partnership. This was granted, this was way before Ninja ever got onto the platform. So now that he's on, they might actually take like real consideration into it. But I don't think he had 2,000 followers. I don't
Yeah.
think. I'm not sure. I think they have it more on a review basis, where if you
Ye-
just submit an application and like it shows that you're really putting an effort, I think that's more of what they care about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I realistically know in terms of that.
Yeah.
I do think it's good to have a much higher limit though, because I feel like the limit for affiliate ship is extremely low. Like it's a very
Yeah.
very low bar, and I don't know. I feel like that really just messes with a lot of people, and it really like it turns streaming into a job for them almost instantaneously. The split second they hit
Yeah.
affiliate ship,
Oh yeah.
and I think that's one of the big issues, as well as I think that's kind of one of the reasons why they're moving over to Mixer immediately, is because they're like, oh, Mixer's growing because Ninja's moving over. Obviously, like, I gotta move. That way,
Yeah.
growing viewership, money. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I see it. I don't see a lot of people moving over to Mixer. That being said, there is a lot of people that move over to Mixer for what I consider valid reasons. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like Twitch has a lot of, like, regulation issues. A lot of regulation issues. I'm
Yes.
more than
Yes.
willing to admit that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's a totally valid reason to move. I feel like a lot of things are oversaturated, and the fact about like or Mixer being a much smaller platform, while like things such as Fortnite are still very saturated over there. Don't get me wrong, the
Yeah.
saturation levels are significantly lower on a lot of
Oh
things.
yeah.
So that's just something to consider as well as a streamer. As a viewer, I feel like the experience is slightly better over there for certain things. I feel
Yeah.
like in terms of latency, it's just better. That's inherently obvious. In terms of community, I feel like Twitch still has it because Twitch has been around forever. That's been like the biggest thing. Is like it's the same thing about YouTube. It's like a lot of people hate YouTube, but YouTube still exists. Like there hasn't been a real competitor for it yet. Like that's
Right.
not gonna be a thing anytime soon. Just because the sheer community built on that platform is so foundationally strong. Like
Yeah.
it's really hard to beat that. That's why things like I don't think personally, this is just an opinion, but I don't think Ninja moving over is really going to cause that much of a difference in the
No.
grand scheme of things. At most,
No.
it's going to cost some revenue, but realistically speaking, Twitch gets a huge amount of revenue from the affiliate ship programs. That's
Oh
just
yeah.
it. That's really where their money lies, is like that 3 viewer average. A lot of people try to support other streamers, and like I totally get that, don't get me wrong. I have some people that like support me heavily because I'm a smaller streamer and they want to support me and build me up. And like that's just a thing. But the fact that like Twitch takes a decent chunk out of that cut, they take approximately like 40 to 50%, give or take, based on what it is. In terms of bits, they take about 40% cut. In terms of subs, they take about 50%.
Yeah.
That's really where their like money lies. While the bigger streamers make a lot of money, don't get me wrong, they make a ton. The affiliate program makes a vast amount of money in comparison. That's
Yeah.
really like the big selling point for them, is like, sure, you can monetize, but we're gonna make a bank off of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a
No.
view that I have personally.
But it gets people interested in Twitch. Like, I mean, if you're looking at, and this was kind of my thought process too when I was first starting off as a streamer, was like, okay, do I do YouTube or sorry, let me rephrase what I just said. When I wanted to become a content creator on the internet,
Mhm.
it was like, do I go to YouTube, make these videos that I can like, slave over and not make any money because the requirements are so high, or do I go to Twitch where the requirements aren't as hard to get, but
Mhm.
you still need to put the time and effort. If you put more time and effort into it, you see those rewards sooner than
Yes.
sooner than later.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
definitely Twitch has, I think, it right with the affiliate program. Like it does give people like that hope that they can be like the next big streamer.
Mhm.
But I think it's nice because for at least for myself, it's a side hustle for me. Like I get
Yeah,
the extra revenue I dump into like my games, buying games, buying new equipment, and like just trying to make that my stream just that much better. Even though I know I'm probably never going to see that money come back.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I feel like the affiliateship program is nice in theory. I feel like
Yeah,
that's what it is. And like for
yeah,
people that are much more grounded, because a lot of people will just see affiliateship program, I'm making money playing video games, I'm gonna be
yeah,
the next ninja. As much
yeah.
as like a lot of people don't want to admit it, like a lot of people also feel that way. Like
I
that's
mean,
it's
I
a
won't lie.
very like
I've definitely wanted to say like I'm gonna be the next ninja. Yeah, like I mean we've all
yeah,
I mean we
Yeah.
all think that we're gonna be there and like yeah, like it's unrealistic, but we'd like to dream and we'd like to push on,
right.
try to be that next big streamer. Like, you
Exactly.
always gotta think of how can you do that. And so it's just like, we all have that
Exactly.
thought.
Yeah, I don't particularly think it's a bad thing. I just think that
No.
some people really let it take hold and like really let it grasp.
Oh
But you're
yeah.
right. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I feel like that gives people more of like an ability to push forward to make better content.
Yeah.
And like
A-
I think that's a great thing.
Absolutely.
But but yeah, that's basically my stance on that in particular.
Yeah.
In terms of Mixer's monetization, I believe mostly this is just from because I've known a few people that have personally moved from Twitch to Mixer. There's a lot of things you really got to worry about there, and one of
Yeah.
them is Twitch loyalty. Like,
Yeah.
while I might not be personally like super loyal to Twitch, I'm loyal enough to just be like, hey, your regulation issues suck all the D. Like they're
Yeah.
horrible, absolutely
Mhm.
atrocious.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
could theoretically move over to Mixer. I just don't personally want to. But like there still is a viewership loyalty to Twitch. Like when you
Oh,
move over,
absolutely.
I see it so often. It's about like a 60% like rate of people that move over with you. So you lose
Yeah.
essentially 4% of your viewership average,
Yeah.
which can be detrimental. And it's not even necessarily so much detrimental to your streams, it's more so detrimental to your emotions as a streamer because
Yeah.
we all know that feeling of like, granted, I have my numbers off for this exact reason now, but like you look at your numbers and they're lower than average. They're
Yeah.
significantly lower than average. And you're just like,
Yep.
what is going on? Is it me?
Yep.
What's happening? Have I lost it? Is this where it ends? Because
Yeah.
every streamer has that exact feel at some point
Yeah.
or another.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I feel like that's one of the big worries on your initial move is like you really got to take into account not everybody's going to be there. Hell,
Yeah.
nobody might be there. I've seen
Yeah.
that happen as well where it's like a group of like it's a viewership average of about 15 to 20 and he moves over to Mixer and then he's got 2.
Yeah.
And he's one of them. He's one of
Yeah.
them. So it's just like
One.
that's a rough one, Chief, but you got to stick with it if you really want to move. Because I also
Yeah.
see a lot of people like go back and forth. I don't feel like going back and forth personally is that big of an issue, but I also I know I'm getting into like a weird entire thing, but like
Yeah.
there's been examples of people that have like moved over because of the regulation issues, and then they just talk ish about Twitch after they move. Like that's their
I
big prerogative. And then
yeah,
like 2 months later they move back and they're like, I love Twitch. I'm
I
just
love
like,
Twitch. Yeah,
I
no,
can't stand you.
absolutely. And I can see like I know personally like recently with seeing like a lot of like I don't know, some of the politics of Twitch and how
Mhm.
they, go about banning certain people and how
Yes.
or lack of ban
Mhm.
per se. I can see me personally myself, like I could see like Twitch, like me getting upset at Twitch and being critical of Twitch
Right.
because they're obviously like they are it seems like they're playing favoritism. And I shouldn't say
Mhm.
they obviously are because I don't know if they are. But it seems
Right.
like they're playing favoritism to certain streamers, to bigger streamers, and there doesn't seem to be this clear cut okay, if they did this, they deserve a ban. And
Right.
so it's kind of like okay, like it's confusing. Like if for anyone on this platform on Twitch, if they're going to be a part of this, there should be some consistency there. And
Yes.
Twitch, and I will say, I believe Twitch has completely failed on that part, and they need
Mhm.
to either do better or be more transparent with the audience, since we are. I mean, with the community, since we are a community, we should
Right.
be transparent and be able to talk with Twitch and be able to have an open discussion on, okay, what issues do we have and how can we fix them?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I feel like the favoritism is just over the top at this point.
Yeah.
it's kind of ridiculous seeing certain things that some people get away with. That
Oh yeah,
happened multiple times, mind you,
yeah,
multiple times. I'm not gonna say what, but we all know exactly what it is. Um, but like you
yeah,
see it happen more than once. You see it happen up to 4 to 5 times, and nothing happens.
yeah,
Mhm.
Absolutely nothing. But a smaller streamer that just says something, granted, I might not even agree with it, but they say
yeah,
something and then boom, they're gone. Just
yeah.
absolutely gone.
It
Just because
and
some person didn't like it. And
exactly,
like,
and then if you you're kind of SOL because you're that small streamer. What are you,
yeah,
Twitch is not going to give care. They're oh yeah, you only make you make like $100 in like 3 months, so whatever.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
We can
I've
lose that.
even like
Yeah,
contacted Twitch support, and one, if you've contacted Twitch support ever, it's horrible.
yeah,
But I contacted Twitch support to change my name because I wanted to change my name into something that like is not normal. That being said, it's
yeah,
not taken, so it's an opportunity to like. There's a chance, but like, there's a solid chance, maybe not.
yeah,
I was basically like, I want this username, insert this. Can I get it? 2
yeah.
months go by, no response. Get a
Nothing.
response. They sent me a link to the article to how to change your username on Twitch, and they didn't even read it. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This has gotta
Yeah,
be a joke, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, that's absolutely abhorrent. The regulation standards, nobody knows them at this point. Like I
yeah,
half
Yeah.
the time I barely know them, and I
yeah.
research that. Like I try to understand what I care about, like what I need to care about as an absolute. And it's like,
Yeah. It's a
Toby
gray
dude,
area.
yeah, just that's it. Just don't
Yeah, yeah,
have
Yeah.
no clothes, maybe,
Mhm.
yeah,
possibly no comment on anything else
Well,
about that. But
yeah. You got to play it safe. It's just like it's like this mentality here is like okay, well, I joke about it in my chat. I'm just like, oh, probably I'm gonna get banned for saying this, and it's something like really not that bad, but like you never know.
yeah,
mhm.
exactly.
Well, and one standard that has always confused me is the exclusivity, right?
Hmm.
As a Twitch streamer, you're supposed to keep content exclusive to Twitch for up to 24 hours. That's
Yep.
the reason the podcast comes out a day after we're
Hmm.
live. Um, and so I've seen partner streamers put things out on official YouTube pages an
Yep.
hour after they happen, 5 minutes
Yep,
after they happen.
yep,
So and that's like the rules and regulations. I'm like, can I put my podcast out right after it happens?
Yeah.
Can I sit here, hit the off button, raid whoever we're gonna raid, and then upload it?
Yeah. And there's
I'm not
another
sure.
little note there as well. So, like you said, affiliates can't do that. Like, affiliates aren't allowed, technically speaking. Nobody checks, to be honest, but affiliates
yeah,
aren't supposed to be allowed to upload the same content that they put out for about 24 hours. If you go
yeah,
check the VODs, like if you go check your videos, there's an export immediately to YouTube option.
yep,
Like that's
Yep.
a
yeah,
thing. So what's really like the trap there? Like realistically speaking, you obviously have the capability to move it over that day, like not
yeah.
even 10 minutes after.
Mhm.
So what
I
really is the big issue there? To a
I have
degree
a
I
feeling.
understand exclusivity rights, but at the same time like not to that degree. Like
Yeah,
when you're trying to
yeah,
bait me into like uploading something to YouTube from my own Twitch as a feature of your content provisions, like why? Like, why have it there
yeah,
at that
yeah.
point?
I think it's more slanted for like the big content streamers, like
Mhm.
like the ones you see for like Fortnite. Twitch probably makes bank off of like ad revenue for like posting so like VODs. So when someone
Mhm.
goes and watch say like Tim the Tap Man afterwards, there's probably still like advertisements or there are still advertisements that still run on those. So
Mhm.
those exclusivities are more for the bigger streamers and not so much for the smaller streamers because it's for Twitch to make the money off those. It's probably not even pennies.
Yeah.
So absolutely, like it's kind of like there are some things that are probably more slanted for bigger streamers that not to do. So
Mhm.
like partner streamers, I can imagine partner streamers not being able to upload their content or they're under more scrutiny because they're of their size. I've seen partner streamers simultaneously stream on Twitch and on Facebook at the same time
Mhm.
and on YouTube at the same time, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's against terms of services, like, and
Yeah.
you're a partner, like, all right,
Yeah.
like like I guess there is no consistency. And then also again, again, someone has to report it. Twitch is not like the all-seeing eye, and they can't really like
Yeah.
monitor other platforms as well. So it's easier to say like, oh, why can't they do that? It's like, you have to think, how do you physically go out and ban catch this?
The Twitch staff, I'll give credit. The Twitch staff is not nearly as big as people think it is. It's not nearly as big. Some people think this is like a million person like thing where everybody is watching everything. Hell no. Half the time I'll go to a partner stream and then there's like maybe a staff member, possibly on once in a blue moon. Like it's very unlikely. You only find it realistically in like the big streamers because obviously they need to be there. But like in terms of like a good majority of the partners that I have known and watched, I have almost never seen them there. And I see somebody saying, how do you know if there's a staff person? Staff actually has their own specific section in the viewer list. So like you'll have your moderators, your VIPs, your staff, and then you'll have viewership. That's essentially how it looks. But
I think they also have,
they almost never show up.
I think they have like a wrench next to their name.
I believe so as well. Yes. Yeah.
That's that was a big thing when people were pirating the Logan Paul, Jake Paul fight, KSI fight or whatever. Where that was a pay-per-view event and people were pirating the streams on Twitch. And there's Twitch staff in the chats. Actually, I have a quote here that I kind of want to read you guys real quick.
Absolutely.
So this is from @Jesse Cox, of his own channel, and of course we've mentioned it here before, the Co-optional Podcast. And this is the tweet quote: "If you're trying to convince me, a guy who has worked on both YouTube and Twitch from early days and has seen both develop and the same." Hold on. A guy who has worked both YouTube and Twitch from early days and has seen both develop the same problems of scale and keeping users happy that newer platform Mixer won't develop the same problems as it grows. You're stupid as shit. And this wasn't an argument. So basically saying that Mixer, we might think of this as a greener pasture, but crowded pastures become brown.
Exactly.
And if this is a greener pasture now, as more cows go to this pasture, it's going to develop problems.
The grass is always greener on the other side. When you make that jump from one platform to another, there's always inherent issues. Like one issue I could see with Mixer that I see a lot on Twitch, or a lot of people do on Twitch, is like follow for follow. I don't think that's actual. In my opinion, some people may disagree with me, which perfectly fine, but I don't feel that is a sustainable way to grow on Twitch, is to have like a lurk for lurk or a follow for follow. And since from what I understand about Mixer, there isn't really a viewership requirement. Now, again, I've heard mixed things that there is and that there isn't, but it definitely is one of those things where I could see that being more of an issue on Mixer, because it's like, well, I need 2,000 followers to be partner to make money. Let me just go into Discords, and I know plenty of Discords out there that do like follow for follow, and they have 10,000 plus people on there. Like, you can definitely do that. And I know people who, became partner using lurk for lurk and have less than 2,000 like followers. And it definitely, again, it's, in my opinion, I don't think that's a conducive way to grow on Twitch and to sustain a community, because essentially that's what Twitch is. It's about building up a community, and that's, how you keep, that revenue and that that viewership coming in, and that interest is building up that community behind you.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think another thing that like is pretty like big to note is when we're thinking about like all the people transitioning over, one, it's Ninja, Fortnite streamer. A lot of people might disagree with me, but a lot of children watch his stream, right? Like that's just inherently what it is. Fortnite is appealing to children of like a certain age demographic. Children are children. All of those children are moving from a platform that's normally known as like toxic to some people to like a platform that's almost exclusively known for positive vibes, and like just everybody is a happy camper. That's basically it. And like that community going over to a different platform like that is going to massively affect, like immediately speaking, like it's going to massively affect the community's insights on Mixer. Is like the like that kind of attitude that's normally like just inherent on Twitch not really allowed on Mixer for the vast majority of cases. A lot of people hate it. Like, a lot
Yeah.
of people really loathe it. So, like, I can easily see, like, that just kind of pollute into Mixer. Not saying that necessarily it's a bad thing. Personally, I don't really care about how people really talk in terms of Twitch. Like, if I
Yeah.
really care, I'll just ban somebody. Like, it doesn't
Yeah,
really matter to
exactly.
me. But when it's, like, on such a mass scale of a group that were, like, so, like, it's almost like they were trained to a degree of, like, Twitch community talks in their own way. Like, emotes are their own things. There's no
Yeah.
such thing as Kappa over on Mixer. And,
No.
like, that's just sort of a thing. I don't know. That's one of the immediate things I would think about, is just think about the people that are transitioning over to Mixer and think about the impact that that has. Not necessarily the amount of people, but the people themselves. Like, that in itself is such a huge thing. Where, like, honestly, I even made insights before. I made them about, like, January and February about where Mixer would be, because it's something I've considered moving. Most streamers and content creators think about it because why not? You have to think about it at some point or another. And I honestly kind of assumed that it'd be much better, because during that January and February area, it was still pretty limited. There wasn't really a whole lot of stuff going on. Emotes almost weren't even a thing, really.
Yeah.
Like, it was basically only a thing for a select few of people. And then that was basically it. I kind of predicted it would happen, like, around August where it'd get better. But I did not at all in the slightest predict that, like, it would just be Ninja moving over that would make it better. Which,
I mean,
honestly, completely flips my, like, argument backwards. I thought it was going to be, like, so much better based on, like, the sheer amount of, like, foundational support it would have, like, developed. Not, oh, big streamer, move over.
yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
That's how. Because that's not going to change anything. The grand scheme
No.
of things. Yeah.
No, I think Ninja did the right thing by switching. Like, it definitely, like, and put it in this perspective. And he may not be making the revenue, say, from, like, his subs and, like, his bits or whatever. And the viewership might be a little bit lower, but I've been taking a look. I was kind of curious, like, what people were guesstimating. And do you guys have a guess how much he probably Mixer paid him?
I have no. Wait, is there actual numbers out there?
No, there isn't. There's
Oh.
guesstimates. I
It's at least
have a
3 million.
guesstimate.
So I know that he pulled in like 0.07% of all watch time or watch traffic
Yeah.
for Twitch. I'm guessing for what is essentially just under 1% of all the traffic. It's got to be a like maybe 5 mil.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of ballparking around there as well. It's anywhere between 3 to 5 mil.
I originally thought that too, and then I was
Mhm.
doing a little bit of digging, and essentially, I think people were guesstimating based off of subs and money he just made off of subs and, like, viewership time. I think he made about $10 million or $10 to $15 million a year before, based off that. So my guesstimate is it's probably between a 3 to 5 year contract and probably for like $10 to $15 million. There's been rumored Keemstar, I mean, take him at your will or take him with a grain of salt, but he's saying like $100 million per year of the contract, which I think is ridiculously amount. I think that's over exaggeration. But my guess is if this contract ever gets leaked or everything comes out, my guess is probably around $10 million for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. And we're just ballparking. Honestly, it might even be higher. It could be significantly higher. This is Microsoft we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, they have money to throw. Like, that's not a worry in the grand scheme of things. So it could be 10 to 15
this
mil.
is absolute
It could
guess.
be like 40 mil. I doubt it. I really fucking doubt it on that front. But, like, there's a chance that it could be anything. But yeah.
A deal like this does not happen overnight. Like, a lot of people are like, people are like, oh my God, like this just probably happened. You got tired of it. Like I think you said earlier, this does not happen overnight. And I think he may have tweeted out a few months ago that he has some big changes coming. So a lot of people were saying like this is what he was talking about. I mean, I think in the short term this is a really brilliant idea because he can then stream how he feels. He doesn't have to feel the pressure of like, having to keep the money up. Like it's a great idea. I think he did a fantastic job.
No, I completely agree. Honestly, there's no real loss for him there in the grand scheme of things. Like, what's the worst case scenario? everybody leaves and you still get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
And like that's not even that bad.
no.
If anything, that's basically early retirement. But
I mean,
but
if I was offered $10 million to switch over to Mixer, I mean, I would probably take it.
Yeah, like let's be honest
Yeah.
here. $10 million is a lot of money. Like that's a lot of money. So
yeah, and then he's got his sponsorships with like Red Bull. That's probably a few $1 million right there. He's raking in, and I'm assuming he's probably making bank off the subscriptions as well. He probably has a negotiated deal where he will still get the proceeds from the revenue that he makes off of the like the donations and the like the subscriptions on Mixer.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the time.
Okay.
Let's get some quick final thoughts on this topic.
Sure.
And then move on to our next topic.
Okay.
Basically, I feel like the regulations of Twitch suck. I feel like that's the only like real like big issue, and that kind of is like the foundational issue that causes everything else. And while the regulations on Mixer are extremely more strict in comparison, they're at least regulated. Like I have to give them credit there. Like if you really don't want to follow their regulations, there's more than just one platform out there. Like that's always an option.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's basically it for me.
I think my final thoughts on it, on like regulations and everything of Twitch, it's like, people will talk crap about Twitch, and it's like I don't ever seem like I'm talking crap about Twitch. Don't get me wrong. I love Twitch. I love the platform that I've worked on and I've been a part of for almost over 2 years now. I think it's okay to be critical of Twitch and say, hey, this isn't right. You need to do better, because that's the only way to like say like, to work and make things better, is to say, hey, this isn't right. You guys need to do better. So I love Twitch. I don't have any plans of switching over to Mixer anytime soon. Just I think Twitch needs to fix their crap. That's all.
Yep.
So for me, some of my thoughts are, first off, if you're a content creator, you should always be thinking about ways that you can pivot your content, because being on a single website is like being on shifting sands, right? You're building your house on shifting sands. If you're a content creator, you always need to be thinking about the ways that you can pivot and move. If Twitch goes down tomorrow, they lose everything. What are you going to do as a content creator? And how are you going to reach out to your audience to make sure you still retain that audience? That's one thing. It's not bad for people to move to Mixer. It's not bad for people to go to YouTube. It's not bad for people to be on Twitch. In terms of Twitch, it is fair to critique them on their piss poor lack of regulation. Like I'm just going to go out and say it's piss poor.
Yeah, it is.
And here's the bad thing I think Twitch is going to realize very, very soon, is that when they allow situations that stir in controversy, partnered streamers allegedly saying racial slurs. We've had 2 incidences of that in the last week. We have had incidences of, I'm not going to say alleged, cat abuse, pet abuse. I don't care if that really gets me in trouble, because it's not alleged. It is animal abuse. We have issues of sexual content, not even just the ninja thing, but actual sexual content being on Twitch. All of those things are going to affect Twitch's ad revenue. These are things that affect YouTube. And I think it is incredibly arrogant for Twitch to think, oh, that's not, advertisers aren't going to see this as a problem. That is incredibly arrogant. And that is incredibly dangerous for the platform. And ignoring those issues is going to cause the platform to lose revenue. So those are my big things. It's like, content creators always need to be thinking about how they get their content out to people. If you're a streamer, be in multiple, be able to go to multiple places. If you're a podcaster, make sure you're not just on Spotify, you dummy. Make sure you're on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and everywhere else. If you're a blogger, make sure you can put your, you either own your own host or you're on a good host. All that good shit. So those are my 2 final thoughts on that.
I think the one thing to really note too as well is just like, if you kept an eye on YouTube at all ever recently, like nobody will ever say a curse word even once, because if you do, you're demonetized. Like that's
Yeah.
such a big core issue there. And if you think that's not going to carry over to other platforms, like that's not just like, oh, we're trying to make it more appealable to kids. It's, oh, we're trying to still get paid. Like that's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much what it is. So
Yeah.
like that's
Uh,
easily going to transition over to other platforms at some point. Just something
Fortunately
to think
enough,
about.
fortunately enough, it hasn't come over to Twitch yet.
Mhm.
And I guess the big thing is difference between YouTube and Twitch would be like, how do you implement it? How do you watch people? And like you said before, it's kind of hard because the staff isn't really here to like, regulate, 1 million people who are streaming right now. Like it's
Mhm.
next to impossible.
Yep.
So I hope it doesn't come anytime soon because I do curse a lot.
Yeah.
I feel it.
So we have one more topic, and I
Yep.
kind of want to get into it, just
Yes.
because I'm looking at time, and I want to make sure that we're kind of uh, keeping our time here. So we talked about a story a while ago. Let me see when we talked about it, but it was the FTC Lootbox workshop, essentially the FTC. This was back in February. The episode was with Telram. I'm going to go on ahead and copy the link there and post it in the chat for anyone that wants to go back and listen to that. So the FTC said that they were going to bring in all of the game dev, or game companies and and some other industry experts, um, and try to figure out what the hell loot boxes are. Are they fair, and whatever else. The big news that came out of this was that the big hardware developers, being Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, said that they're going to mandate all games that have loot boxes to disclose odds in them.
Mhm.
Just like how if you go to a casino, um, the slot machines have to have posted odds. It's also that those slot machines are verified not by the companies that create them or the casinos that create them, but
Mhm.
a third regulatory body.
Yeah.
So I think they're planning on doing something very similar that can be verified. Um, so this is kind of the where we start seeing where we've talked before about self-regulation in
Mhm.
the industry. Ren, I know that you don't believe in self-regulation at this point with this particular situation,
Yep.
this particular this business practice. Nermal, what are you thinking? Do you think the gaming industry can self-regulate this, or do you think the government needs to come in? Just like as a
uh
quick little temperature check.
Sure. No. I typically, for the most part, I don't believe that the government should interfere, but I think there are cases that should, and I think they should regulate and make sure that, I guess, people aren't being taken advantage of, and that
Mhm.
I ultimately should. I guess, are we asking the question here is like, are people responsible for making sure that they're not spending money on loot boxes? I mean, I think for us as adults, we know that this is a form of gambling. I think we
Mhm.
have the critical thinking and the ability to say, okay, well, this is kind of a way of gambling. I think the ultimate, the underlying issue that is coming up is that is it for kids who have mommy and daddy's credit cards, and
Mhm.
mom and dad don't really give two shits of what they what they spend on Xbox. And so $3,000 later, and is it something that the government should regulate? They should definitely take a look into. I personally
Mhm.
think, because I don't think people can regulate themselves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately, I believe in free market, but I think businesses are trying to starting to take advantage of the fact that kids are lack capacity to be able to
Mhm.
make these decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just kind of
So
want to like reiterate, like, granted,
mhm.
I do think that there needs to be government regulation. Doesn't mean I want it. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean I actually
Yeah.
want it. I
No,
just think that,
absolutely.
like, at this point, that there's no fucking chance around
Mhm.
it. Like, there has to be something done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just gonna get worse and worse. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically it.
So real quick on the whole gambling aspect of it. Um a lot of people, they point out that it works on the same psychological basis as, and I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Um but a lot of people point out that it works on the same psychological um processes as gambling. Legally, it's not really gambling because gambling requires some sort of payout, at least in
Mhm.
the UK and the US. So, which in certain cases that is entirely possible.
Mhm.
One of the biggest loot box scandals that has ever hit the gaming industry was the CS:GO Lotto,
Yep.
where there was a way to pay out CS:GO skins. I've got some quotes here that I want to read. And so our main source on this, by the way, is the gamesindustry.biz article by Brendan Sinclair. So people can go check that out. I'll post a link in the Twitch chat if people want to um read that on their own time. It'll also be in the description of the podcast. So here we are. Um, in her presentation, International Game Developers Association Executive Director Renee Gittins acknowledged game creators are split on the subject of loot boxes and reiterated the group's call for industry self-regulation. Quote, while there are different monetization strategies, game developers in the end just want to provide joyful and satisfying experiences that make people experience something in this wonderful medium of games, Gittins said. Takes on that.
Could you repeat that? Oh,
Yeah, well,
that was a lot all at one
that was
time,
a
and I was
lot.
just like,
Yeah.
hold on.
Okay. So this is the executive director of the International Game Developers Association. Her
Okay.
name is Renee Gittins.
Okay.
She acknowledged that creators are split on the subject of loot boxes and
Mhm.
reiterated the group's call for industry self-regulation. This is her quote from her presentation. Quote, while there are different monetization strategies, game developers in the end just want to provide joyful and satisfying experiences that make people experience something new in this wonderful medium of games.
Could you really call
End
loot
quote.
boxes new? I mean, really?
I
I
So
can't find that one. I can't find it enjoyable. Like that's one of the
yeah.
first things. Like
Yeah.
if you really wanted to make a new and enjoyable experience, you probably wouldn't have made it like cost money, like actual physical money to use. That would
Yeah.
make it a lot more enjoyable. Just throw that one on the table. But
Yeah.
oh, go right ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, no. Like no, they're absolutely that's just wrong. No offense, like and this is more towards AAA titles.
Yeah.
I guarantee there's a lot of small indie like that's I typically play indie games. I don't play you won't catch you will I mean on occasions you'll see me play a big AAA title, but there's very extenuating circumstances that I will play those. But
Mhm.
typically speaking, the AAA titles I feel is they're out for money. They're just
Mhm.
out to get your wallet to keep you spending money, and that's why I don't buy into buying loot boxes. I don't buy into buying skins.
Mhm.
Like when I did a 24-hour stream of Fortnite, and everyone was like, "Oh, you should buy like this skin. You should buy that skin." I'm like, I'm not, and that's actually an exception. I think the way that
Mhm.
Fortnite did it, and say
Yeah.
Apex Legends, they did it. The game's free, so
Yeah.
everything else is optional. So that's okay. But when you spend $60 for a game,
Mhm.
one game that comes to mind is the Battlefield series. After
Mhm.
Battlefield One, like Battlefield One started like, oh yeah, you could buy this gun or this skin for that gun or something like that. That kind of I already spent $60. Why should I spend an extra $30 for the next map or an extra $50 for the next map? It's just like you've already
Right.
made a lot of money. And I understand, like I know the reason why they want to do it because they want to make more money. And that's
Yeah.
understandable, but that's why I won't buy into that stuff. And that's why
Mhm.
I'm never gonna buy into that stuff.
S- Okay. So I have another one here that I want to get into.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read from the article here first. The larger concerns were expressed by other panelists, including John Brayalt, I'm sorry, VP of Public Policy, Telecommunications, and Fraud at the National Consumers League. This is the quote. The evidence that's been presented raises a lot of key questions that we think are appropriate for the FTC to investigate. First of all, are loot box odds being manipulated to incentivize continued play for eventual monetization? He continues, when I buy Magic the Gathering pack or baseball card pack at Target, my odds of getting a rookie card or a rare card there are fixed. It's
Mhm.
a physical thing. But when you're opening loot boxes online, those odds can be manipulated based on a variety of factors.
Yep.
that is indeed the case. What factors are being used to influence loot box drop odds? And this is something that I because we live in a digital age.
Mhm.
Um, and this is something I always think about. And I've only been to a casino once, but a
Mhm.
concern I always have is everything is connected to the internet, and everything can be changed in at times with, you know, a very quick software update, right? You can
Yeah.
change I mean, not even a software update. You could probably just go and edit
Mhm.
the win rate odds at
Yeah.
a slot machine, and you could probably do the exact same thing on the back end of a game as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's kind
and
of an example of this. Granted, it's not an example through loot boxes, but it still is an example through a video game of sorts.
Yeah.
Destiny 2 for a while actually had a XP thing where like the longer you played, you actually earned less XP like during your like time. It was kind of meant to encourage you to play even more. That was kind of like what they were really trying to go with it, which I don't
That's
get.
weird.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's still like that manipulation there of like you're
Yeah.
playing for like you're continuing. You're obviously
Yeah.
spending more money. What if we lower the odds a little bit more? What if we make it just a little bit harder? You're already
Yeah.
gonna keep spending your money. Like
Yeah.
what's really the issue there? It doesn't really matter if you win or lose. You're going to keep
mm,
spending. But yeah, that was one like big thing. And as worldly points, the XP scaled to 100th at some point. Yes, exactly. So like after a certain amount of time, the XP would continue to scale lower and lower and lower to like obscenely low degrees. Where it was just like,
mhm,
at that point, why am I playing? Like
Yeah.
realistically speaking, that's an example where you can see it. Like you can
Yeah.
actually see it. But like in the case of like a loot box or something like that, you can't see the back end. You have no idea what's going on. Like
Yeah.
it might be 10% chance to get something. It might be like 1. It might be 0 because of that like particular box. Who
Yeah.
knows? But like that's just something that you have to keep in mind of. Nobody knows the back end of
mhm.
it except for them. And there's easily that chance for manipulation there,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Um, let's see. Um, I think those were like kind of the big quotes.
Yeah.
Like my main concern being, and that's a really good point on if things are getting tweaked and stuff like that. Who is verifying that? Like there
Mhm.
probably needs some sort of third regulatory body. Regardless, now it just I think regardless of if they display it, there has to be a body that gets in, checks the software, says this is it.
Mhm.
If we come and do an audit and see the change logs and this is in anything here, you guys are in deep shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be a big thing. Another problem that like we haven't really talked about in terms of loot boxes in video games and stuff like that is and Epic is currently getting in some trouble for it too, is if you're putting your credit card information into these gaming companies websites,
Mhm.
there's no guarantee that it's safe.
Right.
Oh
And
yeah.
Epic, and there's currently a class action lawsuit that's getting passed through the courts against Epic Games for this exact reason, that they actually the class action claims that Epic Games never properly notified anyone whose information was exposed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so those are kind of like the big things that I thought were uh, kind of important to the story. The
Mhm.
fact that the hardware manufacturers are saying anyone that's going to be on our platform needs to disclose rates. I think
Mhm.
them all coming out, which is very strange. This is not the first time that we've seen Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo all come out with a joint statement.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is the second time this year, at the very least.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and then the idea that this is some sort of fun experience that they're putting together, I don't think anyone really buys.
No.
Mhm.
Um, I certainly don't buy it. And then yeah, the fixed odds situation too, or the idea
Mhm.
that how do we know who's verifying that the odds are what they say they are? And I think
Yeah.
that's a very valid point. And that just thinking about that, um, it leads me towards, yeah, maybe we should have maybe throw this under the gaming commission.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, if you're going to be offering some sort of gambling or gambling like feature,
You should be
then
able to regulate it.
yeah, people should be able to see change logs, and independent users. I mean, fuck. If we don't want to give it to the government, then you need to provide the code. You need to
Yeah.
allow people to see the change logs.
Yeah.
So independent journalists or independent software professionals can go and verify percentage rates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see people that, so maybe there's a little bit more. I could see Lootbox, if this becomes a thing, maybe Lootbox could go away, because they may not want people to see their codes and maybe see how they do their odds, and they might find a way. I never doubt like a company's ability to find a way around regulations and things like that, because I mean, hey, if they like this and it brings in a good portion of the revenue, they don't want it to go away. So they might try to do like a loophole or something like that. And again, it's a matter of how do we regulate. I mean, I guess ultimately, how do we go about doing this? How do we go so that the companies can still make money, but not be hindering or taking advantage of people.
Yeah. And I feel like there are examples, of course, where like they have done self-regulation, right? I think one of the ones, if I'm remembering correctly, Overwatch actually does some decent self-regulation on its loot box system.
Yeah.
Where they actually have, I believe they have the exact percentages out, as well as there's an acknowledgement of if it's something you've already won, they try to like remove that, not necessarily remove it, but they lower the percentage chance that you get that from the particular loot pool. So you're always still getting a reward. Like that's one of the few cases where I see loot boxes as not a particular issue. Even when you get something that's not worth something, you still get a value.
Yeah.
Like you still get something regardless. But that being said, yeah, there's a lot of issues. Like, there's a lot of cases where that's just not a thing. Self-regulation has been tried and true for a good 90% of the cases to not exist. Like, it's not even a thing whatsoever. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's particular. I feel bad for, like, the companies that do it okay. Like, I feel personally, Overwatch does it fine. It's a game that's not even relatively super expensive. And, like, you get loot boxes extremely easily. Like, it takes almost no time at all. I can bust out like 5 games and then I got a box. And like if I choose to throw money at it, sure, I guess. I know what I'm paying for. If I like go do even a basic check, I know exactly the percentage rates and things like that. And like at worst case scenario, I still get something. Like I get something of value. It's not like I get something I've already gotten 20 times. But yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of my case. I feel particularly bad for like the companies that do it somewhat right, but at the same time, it's so blatantly obvious that like there needs to be some sort of third-party regulation.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That there does need to be some type of regulation going in, because unfortunately, I think people aren't going to be able to be like, okay, this isn't great, and like people buy into the loot boxes because it's like, oh, it hits that addiction, it hits that whatever need to gamble. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I go to a casino, I have a set amount of money that I'm I'm okay with losing. I'm just like, okay, I'm okay with it, and I'm okay with it. There's people out there that just don't have that. They're just like, I can win, and I can win. And I think it's a lot more people nowadays that have that because of loot box, and they're starting the kids young. So yeah, there should definitely be some type of regulation there, so that we don't have, like, I guess, a gambling addiction for games,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think that's something we even talked about like in the past, where like, yes, obviously the big proponent is children. Like that's what every law is going to go after, because that's what people care about. People care about kids, and people care about like that thing in particular. Kids are not only victim there. There's gambling addiction is a huge thing throughout the world. And like this, while some people might not consider it gambling, it still like focuses on the exact same proponents of gambling. That addiction still is very clear. I've known friends who have spent multiple hundreds of dollars going through this sort of thing and then get nothing in return. I've seen some friends like buy like 3 boxes and they get like a $200 knife from CSGO. I've seen that as well. But like that's such a rare like possibility in the first place that like that's almost null and void. Like in the grand scheme of things, I don't know. I feel like there needs to be at least something in particular there for that explicitly.
Mm.
But yeah.
Yeah, just looking at the clock here. Let's go ahead and get some final thoughts on the FTC Lootbox thing, because we're starting to run a little long here.
Boxes are dumb. I prefer crates. That's
Yeah. I think ultimately don't buy into that shit. Like
Mhm.
it's literally I think it's worthless crap that you're getting,
Mhm.
and it doesn't add really much to the experience of the game. So don't fight it, man. Fight the power. Don't give into it. If you like a game, just pay the $60 and be done with it. That's all I have
Oh,
to
man.
say.
Cool. My final thoughts are, yeah, we do definitely do need to talk about how we are verifying the win rates. And yeah, that's basically it. I think a lot of these problems we need to solve one step at a time. And
Mhm.
if we're going to allow it, then we need to fully think out how we're going to regulate it, ensure that it's regulated. Um, Anything else before we start closing out the show, guys?
No, I think that about covers it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nermal,
Yes.
go on ahead and tell the kind folks who might have joined us midstream
Sure.
where people can find you and what they're going to find when they get there.
Sure. So I'm Nermal. My name is Peter. I'm a streamer. I'm a variety streamer that goes by Nermal225. I play a variety of different games. I've played from PUBG all the way up to recently Daisy. You can find me at Twitch, twitch.tv/Nermal225. You can also find me on Twitter, which is Nermal Plays Game. I play a lot of different games. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I am loud, obnoxious, and I play all sorts of games. So I think I've repeated myself enough. So there we go.
Oh, man.
Ren, what's coming up on your channel?
So, Big Pogs, we finally, after like 2 months, we finished 2 runs, level 1 to 80 through Borderlands, and holy mother of God, those were the longest grinds of a game I've ever seen in my life. But we're finally done. We're finally finished with it. Now, basically, we're gonna have a little reprieve where I have a straw poll in my Discord, where we are actually voting of what I'm gonna be playing for about a week. And then after that, we're gonna be starting a randomizer run. It's gonna be a full randomizer run of Borderlands 2. It's not gonna be the entire game. It's not gonna be levels 1 to 80 again, because I can't handle it. That's way too much for me. That's so much. But we're gonna be doing a normal playthrough run, completely randomized enemies. I can quite literally at the very start of the game just get absolutely dicked by a raid boss. It happened when I was testing it, as a matter of fact. It was horrible. But we'll see what happens. Completely random weapons, completely random enemies, completely random everything. So yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/renditions with two Z's, because I'm dumb and I can't spell my name. And you can find me at Twitter, I guess, and I also have an Instagram. It's all under the same name. You'll find me. I bet. I believe it.
All right. Coming up on my channel, probably Insurgency Sandstorm or Minecraft. We have been talking about doing another Deceit night. We had a very successful one a couple weeks ago, so we're talking about organizing another Deceit night. Other than that, not much else for content. I do want to announce real quick that there is a content creators meetup for Iowa that I am helping to organize. It is in Waterloo, Iowa at Spicoli's Reverb. So if you guys live in Iowa and you're a podcaster, YouTuber, streamer on any platform, a blogger, come on over to Spicoli's on September 8th. Come talk to me, have a beer. We can, talk and link up, all the fun shit that happens at these kind of events. Let's see. The podcast can be found on a variety of platforms. If you guys are in the chat, you can see I put some of the platforms in there. You guys can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify and on TuneIn, as well as YouTube. We would appreciate you guys connecting with us on Twitter at NTN Pod. If you guys really enjoyed the show, please tell a friend or give us a rating and review on the platform of your choice. Other than that, I did want to mention once again, guys, go check out Budget Arcade. A bunch of really cool, awesome dudes. They do deep dives on free to play games. They're found on all the platforms that we're found on, and probably more. So go check out Budget Arcade. And a big thank you to the love that they've shown us the last little while.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
No, that about covers that.
No, yeah, I believe so.
All right. Well, until next week, guys. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.